So that's the packing box undone. And there's one of the monitors. The KRK Rocket Powered 5. As I say, 5-inch. Let's have her out. The other one's here obviously, but I'll just unpack one. There's no point showing two being unpacked. So they come in these nice cardboard boxes, well padded for transit. And that's what we got when we get rid of all the filler. Little booklet showing you the it's a user guide. I thought it was a catalogue, but it's a user guide. Okay, let's come up. Just checking that this is in the screen, alright. So rather than it being foam, the more coarse, brittle foam, this is this bendy type. Pax one anyway. In fact, if you can't afford flight cases for these and you're going around doing the odd bit of mobile recording for people, not full time, because obviously you'd be well advised to get proper cases, but at least the boxes and the padding are nice and adequate for packing back in, and because of that type of foam it won't crumble and fall apart all over the place. Now, oh, aren't they lovely to look at? Well, they're quite hefty. They're certainly a good weight. Just zoom in a bit. Come on, baby. Having to do camera job as well. So yeah, get a bit more light around the front. It's a bit of a gloomy day today. I've got to get some. We're doing up all the video facilities here, so I've got to get some better lights. So I'm going to go to Jessop's and get a couple of barn door lights or something like that, but or an umbrella light or something. We need better lighting on this bench. But it's very heavy duty, I presume MDF cabinet, but it's lovely. It's beautifully finished. The edges are super smooth curves. I mean, it's so smooth, and this curvature running off the front of the speaker, you can see it in the light. Yeah, it just, I mean, there's a reason for that in the design. KRK talk about, you know, by you know, rolling away the front, you decrease the amount of reflections bouncing off a square fronted cabinet and coming towards you. You know, the theory being to try and get as least distortion of the waves reaching you as possible, so they've curved off the corners of these cabinets. But I must say, for the money, 100 quid a pair. They're made in China, by the way, these actually, according to the box. That is an absolutely gorgeous looking one. It's finished so beautifully. Now on the bottom, you can see that, but it's got a rubber pad, and that rubber pad is stuck on, built in, you know. So they've got this rubber pad to sit on. So when you put them down, they've got a nice rubber padding on the bottom. They're quite sticky on the work surface. Gives them a bit of cushioning between them and whatever they're standing on. Well, that's quite a nice size, isn't it? And solidly built. Let's have a look around the back. I'll take the camera off the stand. Let me turn the screen around so I can see what I'm doing. Right, I'll just put the light on this from this angle. See if that lights it alright. Let's have a look. It's a bit hard to tell actually, but I don't think that's picking up so well. Let's try that. So there's the features on the back. This back panel is made of steel, and it's screwed on all around with these heavy duty Phillips, you know, pretty decent sized screws, and all the amp and everything will be attached to the back of that. You've got a voltage switch here to switch between 220, 240 and 110, 120. Main 3-prong in here. Now here's your power switch on off. You've above that you've got an XLR in and a balanced tip ring sleeve in. You've also got unbalanced RCA in, and then you've got a high frequency adjust pot, and that's hang on a minute. Oh, that's like a switch between 1, 2, 3, 4 different positions. I must say this switch isn't incredibly nice. It's a bit sticky. Okay, so you've got a high frequency level adjust, which is at 0 dB, +1, -1 or -2. Then you've got the volume control, which can cut or boost, cut by, what's that, 30 dB? Cut by 30 dB, boost by 6 dB. Yeah, there it all is, and it, you know, and I must say I'll put this back on the stand. I must say it is beautifully finished. I'm very impressed with the visual build quality of it for the money. That's quite extraordinary. Of course, with a near field monitor, the important question is, what's it going to sound like? And so what I'm going to do is just switch the camera off while I wire it up, and I'll get some program material coming through it. Right, in fact, what I'll do is I'll probably set the Behringer up here and have put some sounds through it or something. All right, so give me 5 minutes. Okay, as you can see, I've wired it all up. The mains leads that come with it are pretty, you know, they're heavy duty, and I must say the sockets on the back are very robust, and the mains plug goes in with a very solid, tight, firm fit. It's not loose and cheap and crappy. These leads are about 1.5 meters, so you're obviously going to have plug arrangements for your monitors and stuff, because there's one plug for each monitor, what have you. Right, so there they are set up. Let's try switching one on. Ready? There we are. I'll have to switch that off again before I switch the mixer on, because remember, noobs, never have your monitors or your amp and monitors, if you're using an amp to power your monitors and they're not active monitors, always turn your amp off or your monitors before you power up your mixer and your other kit. Speakers on last, speakers off first. When you switch everything on at the beginning, you put your speakers on last. When you switch everything off at the end, you turn the speakers off first. Golden rule. On last, off first. And what you notice is the KRK logo at the front illuminates when they're on. Look, that's the actual active light. It's behind the KRK logo, which is on a sort of little screen in front of a bulb. So the KRK logos light up. That's pretty groovy. Right, so and by the way, I've turned all the pots at the back to 0 and set them both the same. Let me just turn that off again. I better get some program material coming into the mixer. I'll just okay, now the hardest bit of all, summing up. I'll tell you what, I must have done this about 15 times and then scrapped it. It's incredibly difficult evaluating speakers. It's a very subjective thing, speakers. So let's just get a couple of factual things out of the way first. First of all, you might be watching this as a Google video, because DanceTech uploads its videos to Google, and there's also a high quality version available on the DanceTech media server. And no doubt the Google video version downsamples the audio. Okay, so what I suggest is you go to the product page on the DanceTech website for these speakers, where you'll find a link to the high quality version that you can download, and that will have 48K stereo sound. Now this little mic, this little camera's got, you know, stereo cam mic built in, and it's not a high quality mic or anything. Okay, and no doubt it's got some kind of compressor built across it. But you know, even if you had the most pristine mics in the world, you know, and they were set up for perfect stereo recording in a perfectly balanced acoustic environment and everything like that, and you recorded the sound of the speakers to the highest quality bit and sample rate digital audio file through the best quality converters. You know, you can't evaluate speakers by recording them and playing them back on other speakers. But what I will say is that the high quality 48K audio version
it's quite surprising how much they show. In terms of what you can pick up about these speakers from the audio track. There's moments when I'm moving the camera around, and you really do get a sense of how much bass these speakers are delivering, and how much power they're delivering, and also you do get a surprising sense of how well the mid-range detail is being delivered as well. Anyway, certainly you can hear a lot more, so I'd suggest get the download high quality version from the server, okay, and look at that to get the real experience. It really does give you a sense of what I'm picking up from them, okay, so that's one factual thing out of the way. Now the other factual thing is, I like to do, when I do these videos for Dance Tech, I like to include the opening the box part of the video, and I do confess that I just can't seem to lose that sort of schoolboy enthusiasm, okay, and I know it's a bit daft, but there it is. But on balance, you know, I worry about, should I put that in the video? It's not very professional, but I think it's interesting to see one's initial reactions when opening the product, you know. But of course, because I'm excited and I've got that kind of schoolboy enthusiasm, I tend to make verbal mistakes in the heat of the moment. So I just want to quickly go back, and earlier in the unboxing part, you know, when I'm kind of buzzing, I mentioned about this beveling and how it helps, you know, reduce the distortion of waves coming off the front. Look, I just want to go back over that because I was said in the heat of the moment, and I'm not an acoustic design expert or a speaker design expert or anything. So to be honest, I'm kind of guessing. But this beveling, which is more pronounced as it works up towards the tweeter, you know, there's less beveling down the bass end. It's probably, and I'm guessing it right, but it's probably more accurate to say that this beveling helps to roll off the effect of the waves being bounced off the front, especially from the tweeter area, in as much as if this was a square fronted cabinet with a right angle where the side met the front, you get the waves bouncing off, and then suddenly they reach the corner and they wouldn't be bouncing off anymore, and you get this drop-off point, immediate drop-off point. Probably what happens is this beveling helps to roll off that drop-off point. But at any rate, it's KRK talk about it as part of the design. And it's probably sufficient to say that this rolling off of that angle just helps to reduce, you know, distortion of the waves in some way arriving at your ear. Okay, but you know, an acoustic speaker expert would have to tell you more about that. But suffice to say, they sound very good. So that's two factual things out of the way, and now on to the evaluation really. On the tape, you see me after the unboxing listening to a variety of material, and that's kind of like getting them out of the box, powering them up and letting them rip. You know, I'm listening to stuff loud or at near field volume. But since then, I've lived with these for about 10-12 days, and during that time I've auditioned a hell of a lot of material on them, okay? A huge variety of music, all from electronic music, dance music, guitar music, all styles of music going back 40 years, you know. And these speakers really do present the material very well, I must say, for a budget monitor. Whether it's, you know, thumping electronic music, and you really get a sense of the thump of kick drums and things like that, and the bass. Older material, like from the 60s and stuff, and I think it's true to say that, you know, because in different eras of music, people mixed differently. There's a great emphasis now on having like a very thumping, tight bass end, and bass is incredibly important to a lot of electronic music now. You know, with a very crispy top end and everything. Whereas back in the 60s, it's probably true to say that music was mixed. You know, there was less bass in the music. You know, I mean, bass guitars and things were there, but there wasn't this emphasis on getting a huge bass end that there is now. So materials was perhaps more mid-range balanced in those days. You know, I mean, they do say if you want to listen to like the Rolling Stones or whatever, as it would have been heard in the control room, you know, you should listen to it on a pair of like dual concentric tannoys or something that really has this wonderfully detailed mid-range, and the emphasis of the speakers is not about delivering bone-crushing bass, you know. But at the same time, I've played a lot of hip hop on it and stuff, and you know, even old school 80s hip hop with, you know, like that Tim Dog track that was playing on the tape. I mean, you get that massive boogie box thump coming out of these things, you know. So, you know, you've heard a little bit of variety material on the tape, but just to say that, you know, I've listened to a hell of a lot of material on these, and what I've done is I've spent a lot of time listening to material on these at a very low volume. And by that I mean volume that's so low that if you were to employ that volume in a typical shared house, you know, and you hadn't soundproofed your room in terms of stopping sound escaping, you wouldn't really be disturbing people badly in the house that you were sharing with, you know, and stuff. And I must say, at very low volume, I'm incredibly impressed with these speakers. They deliver a wonderfully extended bass end at low volume. They really do. And when you crank them up and the speakers start to really drive and extrude, you know, they tighten up and they deliver that really nice thumping, sort of slightly mid-rangey bottom end, almost slightly reminiscent of an NS10 in some way, although, you know, it's not an infinite baffle box, and these are different size and they don't resonate like an NS10 cab at all. But, you know, older guys who've had experience of NS10s will kind of get the vibe I'm talking about there, but don't think they sound like an NS10, but they've got a little bit of that quality in the bottom end when they start being driven that you get from a smaller monitor like that. But yeah, but at very low volume and at conservative volumes, they really do sound like a much bigger speaker, but at a vastly reduced volume, and you do get a wonderfully extended bottom end, you know, which is quite surprising for a budget monitor. So, you know, combining that with the size, you know, look at them, they're not that big. I mean, there's my hand, and I don't have like enormous, great Stevie Vai hands or something, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, you can just, Steve Vai when he was a kid, you know, coming home from school, "Mummy, they were teasing me about my gigantic hands again," you know. "Never mind, Stevie, go up to your room and practice your guitar. One day they won't be laughing." You know what I mean? I'm not some freak with massive paws, but, well, yeah, I've got typical sized hands, but I mean, look, they're quite small, but they weigh a ton for the size. And, you know, they really do deliver a very tight, nice, extended bottom end for a speaker that size. And they roll off at about 53 Hertz. And, you know, but even very low bass notes, they're audible. And for beginners who are considering getting a small near field of this size, you just got to adjust to the way that small near fields, you know, 6-inch and 5-inch near fields present bass to you. And, you know, typically the way it works is the bass is there, but it's reduced in volume compared to the volume it would be on a louder speaker. So for every 10 Hertz, let's say, this is not like a rule of thumb, but it's fairly true. For every 10 Hertz that you go down below 100 Hertz, the bass is there, but it reduces in volume. And the mistake beginners make is they hear like 60 Hertz bass from a small compact monitor, and it's low in volume. And they think, oh, it's not, the bass is too low, and they raise the bass on their mix to compensate. So for beginners, once you get used to how small near fields work, what I find with these is they let you hear that bass all the way down, you know, to sub bass territory. And if you really need to listen to sub bass because you're a junglist or something, then by all means, you know, whack these with a KRK sub, and then you can check what your big bottom end will be doing now and again by bringing your sub in and checking that, you know, to see what they'll sound like on a PA system or in a club or something, you know. But they do give enough bass end to hear without a sub what's going on, you know, if you know how to adjust to the way small near fields present bass to you. But I keep coming back to this thing again, that at low volume they really deliver. And I think that's important because for the smaller bedroom studio, you don't want bloody great speakers, because the louder the speakers are, the more the room reflections from the room and the sound of the room starts to come into the equation. So you're much better off having a monitor that doesn't need to be cranked so loud. And in that respect, these really score. And the mid-range that goes with that is, I must say, they give a gorgeous window into the mid-range detail. All the mid-range detail is really presented to you in a very nice way. I like a speaker that presents the mid-range clearly. I don't like a speaker that you've got to work on the mid-range too hard. I prefer a speaker that, if anything, emphasises the mid-range just fractionally. Yeah, and I'm not saying these are heavy on the mid-range, but they do somehow give you a wonderful window into mid-range detail, and you find you know, if you put on material, you can really zone in on things like very subtle problems with compression on a vocal or something, or sibilance issues, and you can hear the decay and the tails of reverbs and stuff, and they give you a gorgeous window into all that detail of where mid-range instruments and the definition of things live, like toms and vocals and guitars and things like that. And then the tweeter just delivers a nice silky top end over the top, but I don't find them harsh or abrasive at all. So at low volume, they really score, they really deliver. I mean, they really surprised me how that warmth the bass was coming through at very low volume. If you hear like a bone-crushing club kick drum banging out of these, but at very low volume, you still surprisingly get a sense of the massive whack of that kick drum, even though the volume is incredibly low. So they're very good for that. In terms of their overall power, they are small, but as you can hear from the video footage, I mean, they are loud, and I think that's also important, because you don't want to have ear bleeding volume, of course, but you do. I like, when I'm composing especially, I like to have the sound of the music filling the room. I like to get a sense of being inside the music, yeah, and also I like to be able to step out of the room and listen to the sound coming out of the room while I'm making a cup of tea or something, you know. And these have got adequate volume to fill the room when you're composing, or when you mix, you like to step out of the room and hear the sound coming out of the room and then go back and tweak it a bit and come out again, you know. They've got gobs of power for their size to deliver that. So yeah, adequate power, very, very good bass end for a speaker that size, and a very detailed mid-range. And for beginners, they're pretty ideal. In terms of the marketplace, these are a budget KRK monitor, and if you're drawing up a shortlist as a beginner, or investing in near-field little studio monitors, yeah, you'd be looking at these. You'd be looking at Yamaha HS 50Ms, ESI do a couple of monitors, M-Audio do a monitor. There are cheaper ones as well, Behringer, Samsung, what have you. And it's perhaps true to say that these, even as a budget monitor, they are at the top end of the market. They're about 230 quid a pair. Whereas things like your Behringer, your mid-range priced ones like the Yamahas and the M-Audios and the ESIs, I think they're more coming in around the 160 to 180 mark, somewhere around there, yeah. So these are a bit more pricey, but then you are buying into the KRK name, and they do really have a very professional vibe. They really do. And people might be saying, well, that's irrelevant, and you know what, they'd be right if the speakers just didn't deliver. But I think on balance, because so much of these for the price is excellent, and they do deliver, I think therefore that the vibe they give off and everything, it becomes relevant. And for the young beginner who's looking to invest in a pair of Nearfields, it might be Saturday work money from working part-time in a supermarket, or it might be birthday money, or saved up pocket money or something, And I think that for the young beginner, if you've spent your hard-earned cash, and you get the product home and you open the box, and there's a wow factor when you open the box, and then you plug them in and they sound fantastic, and every time you sit down and switch them on, they've got a pro vibe, and you get a buzz off them. It just gives you that buzz to pursue your work, to pursue your dream a little bit, and I think it's important, and they really do give a pro vibe, and they sound bloody great. And I'll just say that these were not a gift from KRK, and these are not a review copy. I bought these with my own money. And further to that, I didn't even audition these. I'm not massively familiar with KRK's products, but I've heard their 8-inch and the 6-inch professional range speakers, and I was very impressed with them. I've heard them several times at different places that I've been. and I've always been impressed with their more professional monitor ranges. So I took a chance, to be honest. I just thought, well, these are the budget range, I'll take a punt on them without even hearing them. And you know what? They didn't let me down, KRK. You know, I'm very impressed with them. And I wouldn't hesitate to buy another pair. I really wouldn't. I love these speakers. I love them a lot. So for the beginner, there you go. And I hope this, you know, I mean, you know, they're just. I mean, I'm not saying they're massively better or not or whatever than any other speaker on the market, but I'm just saying that for the money, they're a damn fine speaker, and they'll do everything you want, you know. And I think beginners kind of forget the kind of, even though these are budget speakers, and it's the same with budget mics, you know, experts on the internet will put down budget equipment a lot of the time, you know, and say, well, you know, that mic is made in China or whatever, you know, you should be buying a German mic costing 500, 600, 700 quid, you know, that's professional. And I do feel that beginners get put down a bit in terms of their budget equipment, but I mean, good God, when I started out, I mean, the first record deal I had, I was using a pair of kit monitors. I mean, something that you bought out of a hi-fi mag and put together yourself, and I mean, they were nowhere near as accurate as these. I mean, nowhere near, but they did the job. I got a deal on them, and the second record deal I had, I think I was using a pair of little Richard Allens that I got second hand from somewhere, you know. And again, I mean, they're a better speaker, the Richard Allens, compared to the first kit pair of speakers I had. I mean, Richard Allens are proper little decent monitors. They're very good, but they're no better or worse than these. I mean, so I'm just trying to say that these will do the job, and once a beginner acclimatises to how a smaller monitor works and how their room works, if you know, these will do everything you want. So, you know, I think even though they're at the top end of the budget market, they've got a very pro vibe, and they really deliver. They really do deliver, and I keep coming back to this thing about how well they deliver at low volume, but that is important for the bedroom studio. Okay. So yeah, brilliant. The KRK RP5 G2. That's the Generation 2 Rocket 5s, and I really think that KRK have come up with a little budget classic here. I love them, and as I say, I wouldn't hesitate to buy a second pair. So I hope this has been of use to you, and check them out at your dealer. Go down and give them an audition, yeah, and have a nice day.